You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith. Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, and streaming live on Ustream, this is AfterBuzz TV for American Horror Story. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest American Horror Story news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, picking up where the show leaves off and the buzz continues, it's AfterBuzz TV for American Horror Story.
Welcome to AfterBuzz TV for American Horror Story, Season 1, Episode 10, Smoldering Children.
Indeed they were.
Everyone...
I didn't even know that.
Doesn't it make sense
It
now?
makes so much sense.
Everyone was smoldering this
Yes.
week.
I
Well,
love to smolder.
we have a huge episode to break down tonight.
But before we start,
Yes.
congratulations are in order. We didn't get to address it last week,
Oh, no, we didn't.
but we get to do it this week without you knowing. Our lovely host, Billy Nilles, is one of the AfterBuzzers of the month.
Oh, and I couldn't think of a more deserving candidate. Could you?
No, not at all.
Because I really can't.
Except for myself.
Literally, everyone who watches and listens to this podcast repeatedly tells me that they hate David, but they love you.
Rude. Everybody loves me.
No, you're really wonderful, and thank you for driving the show and
I'm
keeping us on our toes.
And can I say this, actually?
Do it.
This is the first show that we've had all AfterBuzzers of the month. You guys have all
I know.
held
We
the title.
are the dream team.
We are the
And I
dream
think
team.
we were consecutive, I believe.
Yes.
It went Deidre, David, myself.
Right.
Yeah.
I was September, October.
And November.
Oh my God, die for that.
So you are listening
Oh.
to the AfterBuzz Dream Team
Yes, the
breakdown
autumn team.
American Horror Story for the fall quarter of 2011.
Love
All
it.
right. Well, moving on, we have a huge episode to talk about. So many reveals, so much truth finally out in the open. So let's just jump into it. I want to start with something we have to talk about that's lesser, but I want to get it out of the way first so we can.
Equally as important.
Yes, it's.
I don't see anything as lesser.
It was
I
just-
don't even
it
know what you're
was-
talking about.
it
Tell
had-
me, what are you talking
It
about?
had less import on the total effect of this episode.
Okay.
The storyline of Ben and Vivien. It was very small
Oh,
this
yeah.
week.
Again.
There's just a very little bit to bring that along. But we do need to talk about it because we now have finally see that Ben is back on Vivien's side. He goes to her early in the episode and finally tells her, he does believe her. He drops the bomb on her that even though everyone didn't think he should tell her that she is in fact pregnant by 2 men.
He went against his better judgment and told her.
I mean, how do you tell that to
How do you
somebody?
tell-
How do you tell that to your wife who's in an insane asylum? Granted, you put her there.
He did it because he recognized that she's not really crazy.
Well, yeah, I understand that. But,
Okay.
like, either
But what
way, how does even a doctor go to a patient and be like, hey, by the way, you're having twins and they don't have the same father?
That's why you're not a doctor.
I could be.
I
You don't know me.
that would be rough.
Yeah, to say the least.
to say the least. So and then he tells her this and goes on about how he believes that she was raped and how sorry he was for the last what he did in the last episode, that really awful
Display of emotions.
that he showed last week. I mean, he tries to atone for it. I don't think it's enough yet, but I think he's going to.
But I think it's a great step forward for
It
him
is.
and Vivien into sort of repairing what they've lost.
right.
Definitely a step in the right direction. But I'll be honest, I was expecting her to be a little more receptive to his apology, and she just seems so cold and disconnected.
I was kind of glad that she was as disconnected as she was, because I don't think that he deserves more reception than that yet.
I don't either. And I think at the same time, they had been separated before she even went into the
Right.
asylum. So I think she's sort of written him off
Like as it is.
as it is, even before any of this had happened.
Right.
I just thought she'd be like excited to see the beginning of this whole like coming around from the insane asylum
Right.
episode. But no, to say
But
that-
and I also think though that she also, I think she might have thought that she was maybe better off where she was, because he says, I'm going to get you out of here, and the first thing she says, I'm not going back to that house. She has no desire to go back there.
Well, because she knows what's going on in that house.
And I mean, regardless of whether you knew that everything was going on,
you
you'd been
got
raped
raped
there,
in the house.
Right.
Yes.
and then you'd also been attacked there like a week later. Like I would, even if I didn't think there were ghosts, I would not want.
That'd be the least of your problems.
I would not want to be there anymore. So he says that it's going to take a couple of days, but he is going to get her out.
Well, because of some legal issues, because she shot him.
Yeah, there's some, I believe, legal hiccups.
legal
Right.
hiccups because of the gun.
No, but so
Understandably
she
so.
shot him. There was-
Accidentally.
right, but there was he rebounded from that through and through really rather quickly. I mean, I've never been shot. I've never known anybody who has been, but I would sort of believe that even a clean through and through would require a little
It's
bit
still
of...
a hole through your body. And it was through his leg, I think.
Right, and he's walking around
all
hopping,
normal and
like,
fine.
There's nothing wrong.
There would be some sort of a recuperation process
Right.
in
At
a
least
hospital.
a little bit of physical therapy.
Yeah.
something.
No, he's good as new.
I know, nothing. It was a nick. It
Yeah.
didn't even go through.
Nothing phases
harms.
Ben Harmon. Yeah. I was gonna say that. Oh my God, we have
out of my
ESP.
All right. Well, that was really all that we got on there. I mean, we saw a lot more of Ben, but it ties into the greater storyline that I want to save for towards the end of this.
Not enough Connie Britton, though, I will say.
I mean, just one scene with Connie, and obviously these
I
next
think
two
they're
episodes,
saving it up.
we have everything's going to center on her. So we were getting,
The birth scenes
Right.
are going to be amazing.
and I think what it was this episode was to get these other storylines out of the way, to leave everything to be what is in her and how it's coming out.
Right.
What is in her? Oh my God.
I mean, that is the big question. But some answers that we did get, some questions that were answered. Firstly, the true story behind Larry and his...
Whom I completely forgot that the story that we originally got from him was fake, because we haven't seen so much of him that
Right.
when this story was told, I was like, wait a minute.
Did we sort of feel bad for him?
Awful. I felt awful for
Me
him.
too.
Granted, he wasn't the nicest person before any of this happened, but to be set on fire.
See, well, here's the thing.
In
So-
your office?
In your
right.
office.
So we do see, the show opens in 1994, and we finally sort of get an understanding of, we see the family unit, and when Larry stepped in.
And not only are we getting the true story of Larry, we're also sort of getting an insight into Tate's relationship with Constance and like
which we've been
why
waiting for.
he went
why
to
he
school.
did what he did. I mean, I think that the clearest reason, obviously, there's something brutally wrong with Tate, regardless.
You think?
Completely
But
insane.
I mean, I think that what he says to her at that dinner, where no matter how much you want me to be, I will never be your perfect son.
Right.
And the only thing that he could, the worst way he could prove that to her was what he did that next morning. He woke up, he did 4 lines of blow,
Very
Wake up in the
logical.
morning.
which
Very
would have
logical.
sent me like running around the world, but apparently it just sends him off on
Not
a
that you
shooting
would know
spree.
from personal
I don't
experience.
know, but I imagine. And he goes, and we think we're gonna see a different side of the shooting. That was my impression.
That's exactly where I thought it was going. I
We
was
see
like,
him
oh, he's
walking
getting
in.
ready.
I was
to
like,
go to
okay, he's in
school.
like the computer lab. He's walking to the computer lab, and then they cut down to him holding this gas can.
Yeah.
And then I just, oh my God, was literally like, I shot up. I was watching it in bed last night, and I shot up, and I was like, he burned Larry.
The special effects were incredible in
So
that scene.
good.
I mean,
we see it in the center there. We finally realized what that image is from, that burning man. We finally saw it
connecting
in the
the dots.
storyline.
Yes.
So good. They did that. They handled that so well, and it was just so. I didn't see it coming. I never expected that Tate would be what had happened. To
As
Larry.
big of a psychopath as he is.
I'm still, I know I've said this before, but I'm just still so conflicted because he is so gentle and kind and loving with Violet. The lengths that he was trying to go to save her from recognizing her own death, which is something we'll obviously talk about after. But to see that he's the other side, he is a horrific monster.
Right.
He shot up the school. He burned Larry to a crisp.
To a crisp.
He did.
He did.
He's awful to his mother. Now, there might be other extenuating circumstances, but I'm sorry, it should never drive you to the point of burning your mother's
homicide.
boyfriend.
Or
Yes,
mass
thank
murder.
you.
Right.
So-
It is, and I think that seeing the sides of Tate where he can be good, and when he is with Violet, that's what makes him even scarier, I think.
I think so too, but I think it also begs to question what he sees in Violet is possibly what he saw in himself when he was alive.
Right.
So is he a bit of a sociopath? Is it fair to say that?
Anyone who can bounce back and forth between those two paradigms is a sociopath, 100%.
Right.
But sticking with Larry, I mean, the story of Larry does seem to me to be very tragic. He was this man who was taken advantage of by this really cold and evil woman.
Manipulative.
Understatement.
Completely taken advantage of her. I mean, he lost his family because of it. He didn't do anything to his family beyond cheating on them. But through that, because he was manipulated by Constance, loses his entire family. Then is so in love with this woman that he takes her in, and is treated so horribly by her son. At least Addie seemed to probably be nice to him.
Yeah. Addie wanted to go to the
I know.
theater.
I
okay?
loved the theater. That was
I
so
love
good.
the theater.
I loved seeing Addie again. I was really happy that
Yes.
she was in that scene just for the brief, because she was like a warm spot in the
that
show.
cold room.
Right.
That it's like such a testament to the writing on this show. The way that Tate gave his grace. Is that how you?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like literally dying at the sarcasm, at the metaphors he was throwing out. The thing that he said about his father, how I wish I would have run away with him, even though he left me. Like I was just sitting there and I was like, this is why I love this show. And then you tweeted about that. Like you found your new crack.
Yeah. Oh, completely. This is my new Lost.
Yes.
Like I was a Lost obsessee for 7 years, and this is definitely taking
Obsessee.
its place.
I like that word.
But so it. Thank
And that
you.
ham, I'm sorry, what was going on? The pineapple? That was so weird.
Some fancy ham.
Yeah, I don't like ham.
Constance
at all.
is a fancy lady.
Apparently. But it's just, I mean, just going back to Larry, it is so sad to me though. Like everything he's done has been for her. I think that
Everything.
I think that the beginning, we didn't understand those first couple of episodes where we weren't sure, one, if he was real, if he was a figment of Ben's imagination. He's giving Ben these weird stories, and clearly now all of it was to scare the Harmon family out of that house so Constance could get back into it. That is Constance's end game. I've come to the point where she wants that house.
That's it.
She wants control of that house, and
Well, I mean, if you think about it, she's an older lady. Most of her family has died on the property.
right.
And if she as well passes,
She wants to pass
could
on
sort
that
of
property.
live forever.
Right.
With her family.
With her family.
Exactly.
I was kind of bummed we didn't get to see her reunite with Travis
I know.
in the house. But maybe, hopefully, that'll be next
I
episode.
think that I have a feeling that will happen.
Because did you see how she lit up when she said he died in the house?
Yeah.
It gave her like that glimmer of hope.
Right. But so I do believe that everything that Larry did has been for her. And so then even now he realizes that we see that the police really believe it's Constance. They first go to question her, then she happens to drop that giant knife in front of them when she's coming back from threatening
Real
Larry.
smooth, Constance.
And they believe her. I mean, they have no other person to look at, and they've heard from the Koreans down the street about their fights, even though they are so suspicious from Hiroshima. Which,
I was going to say,
Mine.
beautiful allusion to Hiroshima, okay?
She's so racist.
She
and
is,
I
but
love
she
it.
is, and to look the cop in the face and say the colored part of town.
She is just so
She-
blatantly doesn't care
She
about.
has such balls.
She has verbal diarrhea. Is what she has.
She is, but so Larry recognizes that, he part of him wants to save her, I think, because he's still in love with her. But then he does see his family finally for the first time. He's never seen them in the house. And after talking to Travis and getting the evidence of his murder, I think he was actually going to plant it on Constance at first because he was so angry. at what she had done.
Well, he said that to his ex-wife.
Right. He says, I'm going to make her pay. And I
Right.
think that was what he was doing at that point. But then his wife says to him, why? She didn't break any vows.
Right.
She didn't destroy this family.
Oh, that gave me chills.
And I think that was finally when Larry realized that, you know, he needed to pay for something.
Yeah.
And so we do see he turns himself in. Constance believes she's going to be charged. Her court-appointed lawyer thinks she's going to be charged. They're called back down to the precinct, and Larry has confessed that he's done it all
so
alone.
tragic. Like after so many years of serving, basically this woman.
Right, and then their final confrontation when she goes to see him, how he's going to be sent away, and
He's now serving in Illinois.
right.
It's just
It is
so upsetting.
It is, and he, you know, he says to her that, you know, he did this. What I think was great was he, you know, he's explaining why he did it, and he says that he really didn't do it to protect her because he doesn't think that she needs any protection, that she can handle herself, that she's proven that, but that he needed to pay for all of his sins, that he had done so much in the course of their history that he needed to pay. And there was a moment where and it was so fantastic that Jessica Lange, honestly, if she doesn't get an Emmy nomination for supporting actress
honey,
for
that's in
this
the bag.
episode, like
That's
then there's
in
no
the bag.
justice
Yeah.
in the world. But there is this
In the world.
It's true.
there's
I
this
agree.
glimmer on her face where she, I think, is terrified by the idea of penance for sins because she knows how many sins she's committed.
and if she
I
was to repent, it would be
what-
like
right.
limitless.
I think
Yeah.
that Constance is so driven by that fear, and there was this moment where you saw that on her face, and it was just such incredible acting to see that. But then he says to her, you know, I can suffer through anything if you just say
you.
those words to me, and she is cold to the core.
I see.
She's the original. I was gonna say the original Ice Queen.
Get out of my freaking head.
Just
What?
I said, get out of my head.
I know. We've been stealing each other's lines tonight.
but just cold, just so cold.
Even in his last moments, she might never see him again. Mm-hmm.
I don't think she cares though. She is emotionless.
You know what? So you don't
Everything,
have
like,
to say I love you. You don't have to say I really care about you. She doesn't need to lie, but she could just say I admire what you're doing. Go.
But I don't think she does.
She
think she
doesn't.
looks at him as
She
like a
has
weak
no-
man.
She does.
So can we mentally diagnose her? If Tate's a sociopath, what would we call?
She's no better.
No, she's a sociopath. Just
Oh my
as
god.
well.
So
Without
many,
a doubt.
There's crazies running right and left.
Oh, completely.
I mean, it has to run in the family,
Of course.
right?
Right.
It-
Passed down through the genes.
It has to. But also, before we move on from this, I want to talk about the other reveal that was so disgusting that we saw. The real truth, what happened with Hugo, her husband's body.
Oh my god.
Where she
is freaking
instead
crazy.
of bury him, she grinds him up into dog food
Yeah.
and feeds him to the dogs
The
in
kennel
her kennel.
of dogs.
Is there anything lower than that? Like the most vile, putrid thing I've
You
ever
think
heard of in my
so
whole life.
little of your husband that you don't want to bury him with his quote unquote lover. You're gonna grind him up
And turn
feed
him into
to your
feces,
dogs,
essentially.
and so that they shit him out.
What's
Yeah.
your language?
That's what she said.
She said she thought of him nothing more than dog shit.
Yeah.
I know, but this is not FX. This is AfterBuzz TV.
Yeah,
we
if
keep
they're
it campy.
If they're watching this,
They
they
watch
can
that.
They can handle.
All right,
me
no one
saying it.
likes you. But a low point, perhaps one of the most disturbing images we've seen on this
It
show.
was so disgusting.
A lot of disturbing images in this show. I'm sure you're about to segue into the next one.
And I mean, I think definitely the most disturbing thing we saw, I mean, happened towards the end with Violet. So let's just jump into this
The meat.
the point of this episode.
Yes.
You know, we talked about it last week. It's clearly become, a lot of people were wondering, the huge debate, is Violet dead? And, you know, we had that interview that we read with Ryan Murphy where he said we would conclusively know this week. And he was true to his word, which impresses me because, you know, a lot of people who create TV shows like this that are so heavily mythologized and that need to sustain themselves, they don't give out all the answers. But American Horror Story
Has delivered.
Given
Week by week.
to the point where there's really not, it's strange, there's not much mystery left, but it adds so much more mystery.
Yeah,
If
and
that
don't
makes
you
any
feel
sense.
like you're being satisfied? I would
Completely.
literally throw things at my television if he was like leading us on to believe that we were going to learn all these important facts, and then it's just sort of like wishy-washy
Right.
and not really
It is.
clear.
It is very satisfying.
He delivers every week.
As a viewer, as a fan, I've never been unsatisfied. In
Word.
these 10 weeks, I have not been. So, the episode begins, we see Ben is approached by a truant officer for the school district.
Which, by the way, do they actually do that?
Yes.
I think
They
they
do.
do.
You have
I think-
experience?
No, I do
think
not.
they do in LA. I think it depends on the city. I know that where I grew up they didn't. Or they might, because I think it is like some form of the parent can be charged if they're not
Right,
ensuring
because
that their child is in school.
If the parent is not calling in to let the school know
That the
the
kid's gonna
child
be
is
absent,
not there,
yeah.
then
then they're wondering
the
what's happening
truant
to the
officer
child.
gets involved.
Right, because there's so many unexplained absences that they want
Right,
an
and
explanation
plus
for
she's
where
been
the child
missing
has
for
been.
3 weeks.
16 consecutive, school days. So
Yeah,
that's
so that'd be
3
3
weeks.
It's almost a month.
3 school weeks.
Right.
Yeah. So he says that any more absences they're going to be taken to juvenile court. And
Wait,
so,
hold on. Sorry. Can we just talk about that for a second?
Sure.
If I wasn't going to school, if I didn't go to school for one day, my parents knew. Okay, I lived at home. Violet lives at home. What are, obviously Vivian's been in the mental
Well, I think-
institution.
I think there's just so
That's the
much
problem. They're
going
so
on in the house.
preoccupied with all their own issues that they have just forgotten about Violet.
It's just such a part of life. You wake up at 7,
Like,
you
who's
get
getting
ready,
her
and you
there?
go to
Like,
school.
Who's presuming? Exactly.
They
who,
just let her sit in her room and rot
Yeah.
all day.
like who? That's the
Why
other
is
thing.
no
like,
one
why is no one
reprimanding her?
taking her to school? Like, how was she getting to school before then? That's what I don't understand. She doesn't
Yeah,
have a car.
Was
like,
Viv
where-
dropping her off?
Yeah, yeah.
I think she was taking the bus to school.
How do you know that? Did she say that?
No, because otherwise they would have
They
noticed.
wouldn't have known. I mean, it has to be the explanation then.
Yeah, that
Because
she would have.
otherwise, then
that-
it's just really weird that they're just like, oh, I just forgot to drive her for 6
Right.
Right?
16 consecutive days.
Days.
Okay, sorry. Continue.
But so, Ben goes to speak to her and he says, we need to figure something out. And she's like, I don't want to go back there. I don't go to any school. And he says, we have to find you at least a new school. We have to do something or I'm going to go to jail. Some of us is going to go to jail. We need to figure this out. And so she seems to agree. We see her the next morning. She's getting ready for school. She's going to do it. She wants to, she doesn't want anything to happen to her dad. There's already so much going on. And Tate grabs her because foreshadowing, Tate knows she can't go.
Right.
And he doesn't want her to find out this way. So he, sweet talks her,
With
kisses
Scrabble.
her. We'll play Scrabble if you want. Please just stay. What's one more day? What's one more day? What's one more day?
At 16, I would have stayed. I would have been like, yeah, Scrabble sounds good.
Anything would have sounded better than school.
Right. Exactly.
Let alone hanging out with my hot boyfriend playing Scrabble. I'll
Right.
take it.
And
yeah.
so she obviously doesn't go to school. We've also been noticing flies in the
Gross.
house. The
The
truant officer is the first person
refers
to
to
notice them. He
them
called them some, I don't know
Like
what he called
brown
them.
fly or something.
Yeah, I don't know
like
what he
that.
called them.
Yeah, I watched this episode with Sydney DeBear, who's another AfterBuzz host, and she and I were both like, "What?"
I couldn't
I didn't know if
understand
he said
him
fruit
to
flies.
figure. Yeah, I
or
don't know what he said. But so he first notices the flies on the apples in the living room, and Ben realizes he needs to call an exterminator. The exterminator comes out, and says, there's got to be all these houses have crawl spaces. They're seeing flies coming up from the floorboards. It's repulsive that no one has noticed this yet.
They're so wrapped up in their own lives that they don't notice anything. I mean, he fired Moira. He doesn't even notice that his daughter's not going to school. It doesn't surprise me
That
that
they've
the
not noticed.
flies.
Like an infestation.
Moira would have handled the fly situation though.
She
Maybe,
would've taken
maybe
care of
Moira
it.
was. Maybe that's why
She was managing it,
no
and now that
one's
she's
known
gone,
because Moira was there doing it.
Taking care of something.
Very well could be.
that makes sense.
But so the exterminator's like, all these stuff crawl spaces. I'll get down there. I don't know what it is. I'm sure it's just some vermin that's crawled, under the house and died. Some possum, something. And so we see him, going down in there, and he sees something that terrifies the shit out of
Living
him.
hell out of him.
And before we can see it, before we know what it is, Tate jumps out of the crawl space and kills him.
He says, "You're a murderer, and you need to repent for your sins."
I'm presuming he's talking about the bugs that he murders. Like, that's why he was calling him that.
Oh,
think?
See, I thought Tate was being a sociopath, and he was trying to
Justify
put
it?
the blame
I think
for
he was
the
trying
dead body
to.
on.
I think he was just trying to justify that he murders animals as an exterminator, and so he needed to repent for all of that, and that's why
Alright.
Tate killed him.
We can-
That was the way I took it. But so he kills him.
That's a metaphysical way of thinking about
Right?
it. I like it.
Right? But so he kills him to make sure that this isn't brought to light, whatever is in the crawl space.
But it's safe to assume then, if the exterminator dies on the property, we are going to be seeing him again.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's a good call. So he's gonna be chilling
And
down
so
there with everyone.
if he stuck Violet's body under the house to hide it,
Where is he going to put that body?
where is he going to put that body?
Right.
Because he can't leave the property.
Right.
Maybe he'll feed that to the dogs. He'll take a cue from his mom
What
and just
dogs?
get rid of it.
There's no dogs.
There's no dogs left.
Wait, what are the dogs that?
Those were Constance's
They were Constance's,
dogs.
but she
They're-
runs the kennel at her house now because she doesn't live there any longer.
Okay, so more exterminator man.
Right,
Yay!
exactly. But so then we see Ben is on the phone with some school that he's gonna, some preparatory school. Looks like he's gonna maybe wants to get Violet out of here,
It
away
had a
from
fancy
Tate.
name, like Lemon Grove.
It
or
was
something.
Lemon Grove.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain it was.
I love the Lemon Grove School for
Very,
children.
very prestigious.
Lemon Grove
They have
School
that. They
for
have a great
girls.
Chinese language program, according to Ben. That's what he says.
Right.
But Tate sees him.
Awesome.
Tate overhears this phone call and goes up and tells Violet that Ben wants to send her away. Turns Violet against Ben, and he says he has a plan. He's gonna take care of it. And the next thing we see is him putting on the rubber man suit. Cut to commercial, and we come back to maybe my favorite shot of this entire episode.
An
Dylan
above shot.
McD, shirtless, water dripping everywhere.
I can tell
Shirtless.
you,
He was naked. in
I
the
was-
Whatever.
I was-
we only saw the shirtless
I was
part.
squinting so hard to see how
You were
far
like-
down that shot went.
Oh, TMI.
You were like, I'm gonna put this on slow.
Every male who likes males who was watching that was squinting real hard to see how far down
Any
that
male
shot
in
went.
America was checking out Dylan McDermott, okay? That man is fierce
So he gets, who is, by the way,
for
50 years old.
and
He looks incredible.
doesn't look a day over 30.
I
Let's be
would
real.
trade 25 extra years to look like that. Because at 25, I don't look like Dylan McDermott at 50 and I wish I did. Let's
And
just-
apparently Tate didn't know what he was up against.
Right.
He thought
put
he was
a
going up
hell
against an
of a
old
fight.
man, and
Yeah.
Dylan McDermott threw
I
down
thought he should have known the minute he walked in on him on the shower.
and seen the muscles.
And seen the muscles and been
Rip,
like, all
rip,
right,
rip,
I'll
like-
come back later.
But so he attacks him out of the shower, and reveals himself to Ben. Lets him know that this is who I'm the one who's been doing this.
I think inadvertently, I think Ben finally got the mask off of him in sort of like a.
Do you think? I thought that he was trying, but I thought that Tate pulled it off at the end. And he said, because that's when he spoke to him. But I think Tate pulled it off.
Oh, really? Because I thought Tate
Ben
had like
was
a chokehold around him, and I thought Ben grabbed from behind
That's what I assumed
and
as well.
pulled it off.
And he was able to get it off,
All right.
and that's why he spoke to him.
Because I don't think Tate's ready to be a father of the Antichrist.
True. All right. Well, then he did.
Well,
I'll-
there's that,
I'll
and
go
I
with
don't
it.
think he needs to stall before he can reveal that Violet's dead.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I guess he
He's
was
trying
looking-
to figure this out.
Yeah.
But so he tells him that the only reason he's not killing him is because of her, because of Violet, and he knocks him out somehow. I'm not really. Was there something on that cloth? I felt like he was like trying to
It was probably what do they call that?
chloroform.
Yes.
Wherever he
Very
got
Casey
that.
Anthony of American Horror Story, keeping it
Right.
topical.
But so Tate knocks him out. Tate goes back up to. They're in the attic. Goes back up to talk to Violet.
I want to know where the hell he put him.
But
think he just
who?
You think he
Ben?
just left him there in a towel?
I think
Ben?
he just left
Yeah.
him
And
there.
then he woke up. He was unconscious for a little, and then he woke up.
I think he just. I think he honestly did just leave him lying there and
Okay.
went right back up there.
Oh my God! What
Tells-
if he killed Ben?
he didn't?
He didn't.
But that'd be such an interesting thought if Ben was the next ghost. But okay, sorry, keep going.
But so he says, he tries to talk Violet into killing herself. It's the only way that they can be together.
He
wants to take all of these
romanticizes
pills.
suicide.
Right.
Well,
I mean, he's the only way she can be with him.
didn't
essentially.
Shakespeare?
Yeah,
I mean, he uses the reference in the show.
yeah, they do use that
They
reference.
do use that reference, and it has been
Right.
sort of like a
in a creepy,
rough topic, I
twisted,
think.
weird, not cool way. He tries to be nice. He's
Right.
doing it like, I don't want you to think you died from this
Right.
horrific drug overdose.
He's
Let's do
doing-
this
he
wants-
romantically together
right,
in
and
a
he-
bathtub with candles.
It was kind of sweet because I mean we see that she sort of tries to appease him, but she's like, I'm not doing this, and she runs down. She tricks him to want to do it in the tub. He agrees, and she tries to get out of there. And really, in one of the saddest scenes in this episode, maybe this season, of her realizing this, she tries to get outside, and the minute she runs out the gate, she's running right back into the house.
She's
which
legit.
is so interesting to finally see one of the inhabitants of this home trying to leave
Trying
the
to
property
leave and see what the properties of
happens
the
to
house
them.
is
Right.
to
Yeah.
pull them back. And it's just so sad. She repeatedly keeps trying to run. She doesn't understand why she can't get away. And more every time, progressively, she's crying heavier and freaking out more. And That was so sad for me.
It was such good acting.
It was so good. It was so sad. And she looks at Tate and she says, "Are you trying to kill me?" And he says, "It's too late for that." And he says to her, I need to show you something. And he takes her and shows her her body in the crawl space and tells her, we finally realized that when she did take those pills, she did die. And Tate tried to save her, tried to make her throw them up, but he couldn't get her to throw up enough of them. And she died crying in his arms.
Right. He said you died loved.
Right.
Which is like a little romantic, but a little creepy at the same time.
But such is the basis of American Horror Story.
Right.
I know.
So,
But it is what's so interesting though is we've talked about how much of a sociopath he is, but I do believe him in this instance.
Right.
That
I feel like
Yeah.
he does genuinely.
this is
feel
the
for
one
her.
thing that he feels for and wants to protect and wants to take care of, and it is sort of romantic that he wanted her to. He wanted her to want to die so that her realization that she already was wouldn't hurt so bad because she'd already accepted that she wanted to.
right.
And that was what he was trying to do.
That didn't work
And
out so well.
unfortunately, it didn't
Because he
work.
got so angry.
Right. He doesn't know how to control his
But
sociopathic
crazy.
tendencies.
I agree with you on what you just said. It was really, really cool, I think, for the viewers, the audience at home, to finally see for the first time somebody realizing what their new fate is.
Yeah.
Because Hayden died on the property, but we
Yes.
never saw her being like, what's happening? Why can't I leave? Blah, 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 blah. This is the first time that we've seen that because I'm so used to seeing people like Moira, people like
Who've already
Tate.
realized it and accepted
They're
it.
so comfortable with the fact
Right.
that they can't leave this house.
Right.
To see that like raw emotion coming out of Violet was just incredible.
Right. And what's also interesting, the other reveal, the question that's been asked so long is why doesn't Tate know that he's dead?
Right.
We've been debating this and wondering whether he does or not. And we
Why
finally,
is Constance making him go to therapy?
Right.
Like,
And we got a part of it where after Violet has seemed to calm down a little, and she says to him, why I thought I was protecting you, but you were really protecting me. Why were you doing that? And he says, what was I supposed to say? Hi, I'm Tate. I'm
wanna
dead.
hook
Wanna
up?
hook up?
So hot.
And in that moment, I guess. And in that moment, we realize that he's known all along, but he didn't want her to know.
Now, here's my question for you guys. Do you think that Constance knows that he knows that he's dead? Or do you think that she wanted him to go to Ben to work through some of his
Here's the thing.
issues?
Because he then says after she says, I still don't remember dying, and he says, I don't either.
Right.
And I think that Constance wants him to talk to Ben so that that Ben can help him unlock what happened to him and why he died. I think that's what's necessary for him to be at
To
peace.
move on.
Maybe not to move on, because I don't think she wants to move on. I think she wants her family still in that house, but I think she wants Tate to calm down and maybe
Be at peace a
and
little
realizing
more.
right and realizing what he had done maybe will stop him from being so angry and maybe will help him have a relationship with her. I think that's what she wants.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think that's what
progress.
she's hoping, because I don't think that I believe with him when he says there that he still doesn't remember how he died. So
But what's interesting is that Violet knows how he died.
right, and that's where you can see where he's,
Because she Googled it?
Well, yeah, she Googled it,
And
and
Constance- I mean,
Constance
they
basically
told
told
him.
her
but then he says to her, it's you and me for always, and you can just see on Violet that terrifies
the
her.
terror.
Because she knows what he's capable of and what he's done. And granted, she's dead and nothing can happen to her, but just she's now in eternity with this person. And does she want that? She was not given the option to choose eternity with this person.
They're immortals now,
Right.
together.
Right.
Well, sort of immortal, because they're dead.
But they're alive. They're living forever. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
They have endless
To a certain
lives.
extent, yes.
Yeah.
Don't argue
So
with me.
it
I
was-
wouldn't call it a life.
But she's still technically
She's present.
Right.
Okay, that's a good way of putting it because
But present forever.
Her flesh is there. She can
Yeah.
cry. She has human emotion.
She can have sexy time.
Oh, she's not going to eat anymore.
She doesn't have to eat.
Right.
Yeah, she can have sexy time. But that'll be interesting if they want to have like a family dinner and she can't. Oh my God,
Exactly.
there's so many new questions
I know.
presenting themselves.
I know. Well, let's cut to commercial break. When we come back, we have some fan mail that you guys sent in that we are going to read, and we have some news and gossip, so we'll jump into that.
We're actually going to skip a commercial break because we're short on time. So
Awesome.
we're gonna go straight into you.
All right.
Amazing. Let's
Amazing.
do it.
And no commercial. We have 2 emails that you guys sent in to us. The David.
AfterBuzz.
Beautiful.
Hip new little charming ringtone, so
Yep.
to speak, in there. Sound
So
effect.
let's get right into them. David, if you want to read the first one.
Okay. I only have one. I couldn't find the other one in my
Okay,
email.
I'll find the other one while you're reading it.
Fortunately. Okay, so it comes, Dear AfterBuzz people, I'm really confused about why everyone seemed to think it was so obvious that Violet was dead. The only evidence people cite is that she had been truant, but that's not unusual for a rebellious teen who hates her school and has a live-in boyfriend. The other thing people cite is the fact that she was seeing more of the other ghosts, but Constance can see them and she's not dead. Larry can see them and he's not dead either. One of you guys also cited last week that Tate had dragged Violet into the basement before he woke her up during her suicide attempt, but I rewatched that and she was clearly in the upstairs bathroom. Okay.
He was trying to make her puke, if I remember correctly.
Yes, he was.
In the upstairs bathroom. But then as soon as she died, he dragged her down to the basement.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, where everybody goes when you die in the house.
Right.
Yeah. The reason I ask is that if there wasn't that much solid evidence that necessarily pointed to Violet being dead, I'm led to wonder/worry if Ryan Murphy and company haven't had this all planned out from the beginning and allowed some of the web hype/rumors to influence their storyline/writing decisions. I hope that's not the case, but it just seems like by having Violet succumb to her earlier suicide attempt, they've missed out on an opportunity down the line to have Violet make a more conscious decision to take her life in order to be with Tate. And why are people saying that Violet forgot Tate was a ghost when she died? My understanding of her saying, quote, all this time I thought I was protecting you when you were really protecting me, unquote, was that the whole time she'd been protecting him from finding out he was dead.
Right.
Correct?
I don't know who claimed that she forgot it. I don't know that any of us did.
No, I don't think
So I
anyone
don't know
else did.
where
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
But
I'm
and
not
then-
confused where that one came from.
Also, when we had a dead squirrel in our crawl space, it stunk so bad we slept in a hotel until it was located. How did the Harmons, particularly one pregnant and presumably sensitive to smell, Harmon, not pick up on the stench of a dead human under their floor?
Who wrote that? Did we have the
That
name?
was from Deborah Ziegler.
Well, thank you for writing,
Thank
Deborah.
you, Deborah.
So many questions.
A lot of
what an
questions.
analytical viewer
I
you
know.
are. That's awesome.
In regards to the biggest one that jumped out to me was the idea that maybe Ryan Murphy and co. were writing as they went along.
Influenced?
Nuh-uh.
I don't think so.
That will also be addressed. We do have one of those weekly interviews that we find with Ryan Murphy where he does factually refute that idea.
Yeah.
I mean, whether or not that's true, whatever, but they're saying that that was part of the plan all
But
along.
it's very
and I believe that.
interesting.
I think that the evidence to use, obviously, I believe that that was planned all along.
I believe that they do definitely have a full
They have to. There's no way you can write a show
outline
like this
for a
without
show like this.
knowing where it's
But
going.
it's very safe to assume that possibly they could be influenced by rumors and hype and what the fans are saying and things like that, only to help further along their storytelling. But at the same time, they had to have shot this
the thing-
months ago.
I wish
Right.
Emily Harbert was here because she's like our resident screenwriting
Yeah.
expert.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody as accomplished and expert as Ryan Murphy. He's not writing as he goes along. I think he has
Right.
an
I don't think that
exoskeleton,
I-
so to
Yeah,
speak.
no, you have to.
I don't believe that a network lets you go to series without like an outline for your
without
season.
a full plan.
Right.
Exactly.
They don't just like
and
sight unseen let
yeah,
you
and
produce a show.
we have this conversation on Pretty Little Liars all the time because there's so many loopholes.
Right.
That there's so much margin for error that if they don't watch every little detail and something doesn't add up and a viewer watches it and is like, well, that doesn't make sense. Ryan Murphy and Brad Falchuk are experts, at the very bare minimum, experts at what they do. I think
Yeah.
that there is clear direction. I think they all sit in their little writer's room, the rumors. Everybody sits in a room and no one's allowed in and the door is locked.
Right.
And they write
All they
all
eat
this.
is donuts.
Yeah.
And I
Jelly
think
donuts.
I think also, I mean, the thing that you have to consider is there's a gap in time between when it's filmed and when it airs.
Right.
And I
Right.
don't think that the conversation about whether she was dead or not arose until at the very earliest, like a couple of weeks ago. And all of these episodes have been filmed much longer than that.
I think production wrapped today for the season.
Right. And so, it would have been very hard for them to have listened to people last week and
Yeah.
then change that. There's a question that arises, though, from all of this talk that went on about whether she was dead and all these rumors. Do you guys feel like that conversation where we all were wondering sort of lessened the shock of her being dead this week? Because I'll be honest, until people brought it
Yes.
to my attention and talked about it, I never thought that. And I was sort of bummed this week watching because it was a possibility in my head. And I feel like if that possibility had never been put in my head, that it would have been even more shocking to me to be like, holy crap, she's actually dead.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I was a little shortchanged because that rumor became such a conversation.
Okay, yeah, I definitely don't think that because of the rumor or whatever, it was factored into the storyline, but I am disappointed that she's dead because that obviously limits where her character can be taken in season 2.
I think it also limits where the family can go.
Right.
100%. I mean, we're obviously going to see a lot more of this house.
We
Any
are, and
notion of
who
moving is not
knows
plausible anymore.
If the Harmon family, Violet excluded now, is going to be involved in the further telling of the story, and
Right.
if the greater main character of the series is going to be the house as opposed to the Harmon family.
Exactly.
Right. I hope her plot line though stays at the forefront of everything because I think she's so dynamic, she's so interesting. I don't want her to just be, one of the ghosts in the background.
Well, yeah, as an actress, she's so fantastic to watch.
Right. She's just so
Right.
engaging.
Such a find, too. I mean, she's really never done anything before this.
And she's so young, and she's
Right.
just
And she's
so
so
in
good.
touch with her.
She was in her sister Vera Farmiga's movie. That's like literally her only acting
Yeah.
credit other than this.
Yeah.
Okay, let's read the next one.
All right, really quick. This one's actually going to be much easier to answer. Hey, guys, quick question. All the talk about Violet being dead got me thinking. If the evidence that she hasn't left the house in 2 weeks, in theory because she's stuck on the property like others who died, is true, how come Hayden's ghost was able to make it out in the security guy's car a few episodes back when he tried to take her to the police? Am I missing something, remembering wrong? Help. Thanks for the great podcast and smart insights. Thanks again, Minnie. Well, Minnie, thank you for writing in. The easiest and quickest answer to that is that happened on Halloween when we were explaining the rule that all ghosts could roam only on Halloween.
They can leave
And
on Halloween.
Until the morning.
Right, when Halloween's over.
And
Halloween is
when that was over, that was the minute that she was pulled back into the house and right out of the car.
Right.
And that is, I think, the explanation to why Hayden was able to leave the property at that time.
And P.S. Where was Hayden this week?
I know.
She would have been
Not present.
She would have had a front row ticket to the Let's Laugh at Violet show.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing that I'm so curious about that wasn't addressed this week is that if Violet is dead and all the ghosts, some of the ghosts are very aware of what's going on in the house and who's dead and who's alive, why didn't any of the other ones notice that she had passed? Why didn't Moira know?
Well, I think that Tate holds a power in that house. And I have a feeling that Tate had something to do with that because I think that Tate is someone that the ghosts don't really want to be around.
Right.
Because most of them died at his hand. And
He's not Casper.
I wouldn't want to hang
I
out
think
with
friendly
him.
I think he
ghost.
has some control over some people, and I think that explains it. I think also it's a logistical issue of getting those actors
Well,
when
yeah,
they can.
that too.
Right.
That too.
But so I think that's how they explain it, and that would make sense to me. That Tate was protecting her and
In
sort of
any way he
insulating
could.
her and keeping them away from her.
Yeah.
Word.
Let's jump into news and gossip since we are running short on time. Let's get into that right away.
Jesse.
Well, I don't know why my news bumper isn't going up right now, so we're just going to continue without the news bumper. So Entertainment Weekly had another interview with Ryan Murphy, asking him, so Violet's dead. Did you always plan on that happening? Ryan answered, that was a really interesting experience, and I think we have such a wonderful writing staff, and I adore them and love them. I always knew she was dead, but I didn't want to tell people until I absolutely had to. So in the writer's room, as we're writing one day, 2 episodes after the pill thing, I go, you guys do realize Violet's dead? And they're all like, what? I edited the show where she took the pills in a way to me that was very vague. So yeah, I always knew that I wanted her to die. The thing about where the body was revealed was always in my mind as well. I think Evan and
Thaisa,
thank you, were so brilliant in that episode. It was very emotional to watch. When we shot it, I think we did not show Thaisa the mold of her body. We reserved that for her close-ups. So what you're seeing is her actually responding and looking at a dead her.
Oh, how
And she said that in that
interesting.
TV Guide interview.
yeah, that's so creepy.
I can't pull it up in the interest of time, but she did say that I forget the special effects terminology, but they did like a full...
They did a mold of her.
A
They did-
full-blown
yeah, I read that too.
360 mold of her, and they did not let her see it. And she said there were literally 15,000 flies on set that day. So that actual shot that we saw of her like freaking out looking at the dead,
Was the first time
rotting,
she had ever
fly-infested
seen her.
Thaisa Farmiga was, I mean,
Yeah.
could you imagine how morbid and creepy that thought is?
That would be so amazing to see.
Yeah.
Testament to her acting.
Yeah.
So will Ben and Vivien find out that she's dead? They will find out eventually if she's dead, and imagine what you would do as a parent if you found out your child was dead. Would you want to live? Would you want to die yourself? I knew it would be ripe for that family.
Oh my God, are they gonna kill themselves
See
too?
what I'm saying? Like, it's very possible that the whole through line of this show is going to be the house and not the people living in it.
Well, we'll get in predictions. I have an idea, and we'll talk about that in a second. We'll get through this. And then-
Is this the last we'll see of Larry? Yes, I think this is goodbye to Larry.
Boo-hoo.
Is he headed off to Illinois? Oh yeah, we had to ship him out of state.
Yeah, so he's done it. I had a
He's
feeling
done.
he wouldn't be coming back because he also is going to be back on True Blood this upcoming season as like a regular again. So
They had to get rid of him some
Yeah.
way.
They'll take his name out of the credits. That's
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you think he's actually doing this as penance for his sins, or is he still just infatuated with Constance? I think it's both. I love that scene with the wife where he says, "I'm going to make Constance pay." And she says, "You're the one who broke the vow." I think that was an interesting lesson for him, and I love that the show is dealing with the consequences of actions. I do think he realized he needed to pay for what he did to his family, but I also think he did it to save Constance, who against all odds, he should not still love. And I just loved what Jessica Lange did with that scene. My favorite scene Jessica has done in the whole show is the interrogation where you cut to see what Constance really did. I love it.
It was
She's
so
just so good.
brilliant.
Oh my God.
This was like her episode. She was so
Beyond.
fantastic.
So is Tate's reason for the school shooting mostly Beau's death and his hatred for his mother? Yes, well, I think it's more than that. I don't think his motivations were as sinister and dark and effed up as Dylan Klebold, for example. I do think Tate was probably someone who was bullied and made fun of. What he has done in many ways, all of it, is in retaliation of Constance. She had several children and he was the most beautiful, and she had such high expectations and needs and wants and probably wanted him to fill some of her own dreams and ambitions, and he was just not going to have it. We show him doing a lot of crystal meth. That's what he's doing, coke and crystal meth.
Well, those lines were
before the
coke.
shooting. I think his massacre became even worse because of the drug take.
I feel
think
like
he
they
cut them
some
together.
stuff. Maybe.
He was cutting
Yeah.
them together.
So
Don't you I mean, from Breaking Bad, Matthew like smoke it, don't you?
I
You
think there's
can
many
you can
ways.
snort.
And you can inject. Oh, so
Yeah.
there's
You
all
can
kinds of
do it.
shit. Yeah,
You
okay.
can like smoke cocaine and you
All
can
right,
inject
Dave.
cocaine.
Resident drug expert over here.
I am. There's many things about me you don't know.
Ooh. So
Keep going.
are we going to see Constance's fourth child? Maybe. Is the fourth one like a spider monkey or something? I think Constance's fourth child is Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh my god, I would
That's all I'm going to say.
By the way, if Michelle Pfeiffer came on,
Would she not
Over.
be the most incredible?
Over.
Done.
So good.
done.
Would die a happy
Over
girl.
and done with.
Yeah.
So good.
Give it to me.
Where is the infantada? I miss that little guy.
Really?
Me too.
Well, he is
me up.
further explored, and we really get into him in the one after this one. The thing about the episode that's great is we've been very careful to only show split seconds. And in the next episode, you really get to see what that little baby has grown up to look like. And it's really scary. I actually think it's the scariest shot of the year.
Well, thanks to one of our viewers who
We got
sent
that
us a
awesome
still,
screenshot.
we got an awesome screenshot that scared the living daylights out of
So
me.
get ready,
Creepiest
people,
thing.
because it's
It is-
terrifying.
The most disgusting thing you've ever
They're gonna
seen.
bring it. I can only
yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
I hope it looks like it did in that screenshot.
Yeah.
It will.
No, because they could change the makeup.
I think they'll replicate it. If anything, they'll make it even worse, creepier,
Probably.
and gorier.
Yeah.
So speaking of screenshots, I love the fight between Ben and Tate, which occurred with Ben half naked. We almost called this episode The Case of the Magical Tower. Dylan was so funny when we were shooting. He's gotten so much attention for his quite well-formed derriere. Well, if he lost the towel, it would be like, how are we going to shoot it? We had to protect his pee-pee. But I love what
Ryan Murphy is a grown man. Why couldn't he just say penis?
I don't know.
But I love that as the title, The Case of the Magical Tower. Now, since next
Towel.
week, towel. Since next week's episode is called Birth, Does Vivien Give Birth? She does give birth, but the outcome is not what you would expect. Next week's is the second to last episode. Yes, Birth is the penultimate episode, and Afterbirth is the finale. So what can you say about Birth? Well, Birth is dealing with the fact that she's deceased, so she's trying to protect her parents from the pain of that. I think that episode is really about out with the old and in with the new, so to speak. Also, there's been so much talk in the last 5 episodes that people want those babies. Everyone in that house has baby fever. It has one of my favorite scenes we've ever done. Zach Quinto and Jessica Lange wanted a scene where they went head to head. So we're happy to oblige. So we wrote this really great 3-page fight scene between them, where it's Chad versus Constance, which is quite delicious. It's really good, and I'm sort of pissed we didn't do this earlier, because truly the only person who goes against Constance is Chad.
I can't wait.
I'm so excited.
She's gonna bring it.
The next 2 episodes, in terms of Smoldering Children and Birth, are interesting because I know that some people in the 2 before, with the Black Dahlia and Connie and the Looney Bin, I think people felt you're getting away from our main characters, and people really love the Tate Violet stuff, and they really want to know about the core Harmons. So these last 3 episodes are all about the Harmons and the outcome of the Harmons.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
That was a good one, Ryan Murphy.
I know.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's jump into predictions. Let's
Do it.
let's do it.
And now, your AfterBuzz.
You love me. Prediction.
All right, so we see, and we've heard from Ryan Murphy that we have these 2 episodes left, Birth and Afterbirth. We see in the previews for next week that, you know, Vivien's coming home, and we do see shots that everyone, we see Chad and Patrick back. We see Nora. I have a feeling that Hayden's going to be in the mix as well. Everyone wants these babies.
Everybody wants a baby.
It really is baby fever.
Everyone wants these
Yeah.
babies.
But all for the wrong reason.
Right.
Everyone's in.
Yeah.
You're all dead. What are you gonna do with
No
a
one's trying to
baby?
nurture and raise a small child.
Right? Like, how is that even possible?
Right, and the question is, just what exactly are these children going to be anyway? I think that
That I think is the larger question.
is
and
the
I
most
think that
interesting question.
what is really interesting is what we saw in the previews is that
The doctor says
Vivien,
one of them
is ready to
enter the
give
world.
birth, which means that they were we know that they gestated differently because they came from different fathers and were conceived separately. So it is very possible that one would be ready to be born and the other one would get to reside alone in the
Right.
room.
And of course, this birth is going to take place in the house.
Oh, of
Oh,
course.
it has to. It has to.
So it brings it back to now what's going to happen if you're born on the property?
Right. I think
Are you
that's,
cursed?
I think that's the question. I mean, we were just talking about in the news and gossip about how, you know, where this is going to go next. And is the main character of the show actually going to be the house? And I really think that this setup, and I've said this before in the predictions, that we have these babies coming out, and one is Ben's and Vivien's, and one is Tate's and Vivien's. And I do think that where this is going to go, what the setup for season 2 is going to be these babies and what each one of them represents, and I think that is going to be the new driving factor.
Right.
Is these children.
And it also begs to question, are you born with a soul? Do you get your soul when you're born? Like, what can attach to you as
and
you're
what
being
does this,
born?
and what does this house do to something that's born inside of it? We've
Right.
only seen people expire inside this house.
Right.
We've never seen them sort
Being
of
brought into the
come
world.
too. So I don't think that's where it's going to go. And I also I had another thought and it just like shot right out of
Well,
my head.
I'm curious to see how my number one right now is how Ben and Vivien are going to react to Violet being dead.
I don't
I
think
mean-
they're going to find out in next week's episode. I think they're going to find
Finale?
out in the finale.
Yeah.
I mean, if they've ever had any doubts about the house, like that is going to just seal the deal for them.
Right.
And then what are they going to do?
But
Are they
here's-
going to deal with it? Or, I mean, they don't really have
Right.
much of a
And
choice.
do they find out, does Ryan Murphy allow them to find out this season, or is it something that he's
Gonna
going to hold
save
on
it.
to for next season?
Ugh,
Right.
an elegant cliffhanger.
And there's you're definitely gonna be a cliffhanger. I have no doubt in my mind about that. But the thing is, I mean, we can't. Obviously, they're not gonna leave because of Violet, and I also don't think they're gonna kill themselves so that other owners can come in, because that would just be so cheap to just.
Right.
We know the mistress of the house, and we don't want to see new people come in and figure that out
And have to
because
deal with everything
that would
again?
be.
I
it
don't
would-
want them to take a back seat to new owners.
Right, and I can't see that happening. It would be so. it would be cheap, and there would be no reason to watch anymore.
And
'cause
there ain't
would
nothing
be-
cheap about this show.
Right. So
All right.
I do think that the driving factor has to be those babies and the conflict with everyone who is in this house. And-
Everyone wants a baby for
Right.
an underlying reason.
Right.
They're
And-
going to bring something to
and
this
here's
show
the
that we've
thing,
never seen before.
Right, and the Harmons cannot leave with these babies without leaving Violet.
It's
and none
very
of the
possible.
ghosts can leave.
It's very possible that everyone wants a baby because once you have a new baby, maybe they can leave the property
Oh, like swoop it,
and
put
like
it in your bag, and then leave.
relive, or maybe they can like inhabit the baby's body and
Well,
Maybe.
and adding on to it, when he said out with the old, in with the new.
Right.
right.
It's gonna be. I mean, I'm so excited.
So am I.
I am so excited. Well, thank you guys for tuning and watching. We have to give you a special thank you. We have been week after week been made number 1 or number 2 of the AfterBuzz shows on iTunes. So thank you so much for watching us. We wouldn't be here if you weren't tuning in, listening, and watching. So from everyone at AfterBuzz, thank you so much. Tell your friends who love the show, because I'm sure you've got some, and if they aren't watching, they should be.
Subscribe
and
to us on
we're-
iTunes.
And find us on Twitter.
And we're really, really participatory people. Like, we obviously read the fan mail. So please find us on Twitter. Talk to us with your thoughts, your predictions, your questions. I'm at Her Name is Deidre.
At You Can Call Me Skiff.
and Billy Nilles _duh. We all tweet each other. You'll find us very easily. If you have questions, please write in at info@afterbuzztv.com, and we will read them on air. So thank you, and have a great night, guys.
Good night.
Bye.
From producers Kevin Undergaro and Phil Svitek, engineer DJ Jesse Janity, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. If you have questions or comments, be sure to buzz us at info@afterbuzztv.com. And you can find us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.